And present tonight, we have Hong Tran, the member on my right side, and Jack Walsh on the left side, and Council President Linda Kochmar on the far left side, and I believe Susan Honda, there you are, Susan, is joining us remotely from beautiful Federal Way, right? So we're going to get our meeting going, and the first order of business, is there any public comment? And seeing none, we'll move to committee business. Does anybody have anything they'd like to bring up for future agenda or anything? No? Okay, we're going to go to item A, which is approval of minutes from January 6, 2025.
I move that we approve the minutes of the 6/25 or the January 6, 2025 committee meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And Susan, if you need to, sometimes I don't see the screen, so make sure you jump in if you need to make comments, okay, please?
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Next will be item B. It's an ordinance for Easy Fiber Texas LLC franchise. Mr. Elliott. On our far right, we have Councilmember McDaniel, who has just arrived. It's a great name, Easy Fiber Franchise. You're up.
Good evening, Chairman Dovey, members of the Land Use, Council President Kochmar, members of the council not present. Okay. I'm here to present the Easy Fiber franchise ordinance. The policy question is, should we grant Easy Fiber a franchise to install fiber telecommunications throughout the city? They have requested a franchise. They've paid the $5,000 deposit for administrative time and staff time. The term will be for 10 years, which is standard with all of the franchises and has been consistent with others. Their proposed area is, of course, the entire city limits. Options considered is recommend adoption of the proposed fiber franchise and move it forward to the council for first reading, or do not adopt it and provide direction to the staff. The mayor's recommendation is to forward it on for the February 18th council meeting. Questions?
Councilmember Walsh?
Hey, anybody who wants to install fiber and optics in the city, I'm for it. But who is Easy Fiber? I haven't heard.
They're actually a company out of Texas. They have been slowly expanding. They've done quite a bit of work in the Arizona area, and now they have come into 3 different municipalities here in Western Washington. They're basically the fiber to the house type of group that are trying to do that. They'll install it and generally work to sell it off.
Sounds great. I mean, a unique name. If I didn't know they were a fiber optic company, I might think they were a laxative company, the Easy Fiber. So anyway,
No comment.
Councilmember McDaniel?
Yeah, not easy to follow up on that one. My question is, how many current utility companies or companies that are providing fiber, how many do we have now that we've been providing these, can provide services to residents?
Currently, I believe we have 4.
4? And do they do, how does this set up? Do they do last mile? Or is it literally because with the right of ways, does each one of these companies that we sign these contracts with, do they have the ability to put their own cable or their own fiber into the road, or is it strictly from the road to the house that they connect?
Actually, once we grant them the franchise, they have the ability to put it completely through the road.
Is there a limitation to how many companies, space-wise, that we have for conduit and stuff like that for putting in the roads?
Not currently, but what we've been doing as part of the agreement with Zayo is putting in blanks. So to the greatest extent possible, we use the spare conduits that have already been installed for extension of these lines.
Awesome, thank you, that was it.
I have a question.
Go right ahead, Susan.
Thank you. So there's a city in King County that currently has a company putting in fiber or whatever it's called. And they have suspended that company's work in the city because of the complaints of how the work is being done in the neighborhoods. So do we know that this company does a decent job when they put this work in, or what do you know about the company? And how will we be able to make sure that they are not doing any damage, as has been the complaints of the people up in this city in North King County? And it's not the same company, it's a different company, but how do we know that this company is going to do a good job in doing the work that they want to do?
So I believe you're talking about Redmond, and their,
Yes.
and the company that they're working with. So we do not allow the methodology that Redmond allowed. So they allowed microtrenching, which is a very specific type of installation. And we have looked at that. We've had a number of companies request us to allow that, and we actually have not allowed that for the same reason that Redmond is now struggling. We would need to change our specifications to do that, to allow it, and we've basically chosen not to change our specs. So, in short, any company that's coming in has to comply with our standards, which, are the same as Lake Haven and PSC and everybody else. So there is the chance that any company would do damage to our roads. Our right-of-way permits and the franchise agreements require they restore it, no different than every other utility that does work. But there certainly is a risk, there always is, to any utility putting stuff in the ground. But the comparison, or the technology that's being used isn't a great comparison with the standards that we allow, just because we don't allow that construction methodology.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yep, no, that's a great question.
No.
Thank you.
And to further limit it, we do limit the amount of area that we allow them to install with any one permit. Typically, by policy, we limit any trenching to 2,500 lineal feet. If they're doing overlash, we limit it to around 3,500 feet. That way, the idea is that they go back and do the restoration before they move on.
Okay,
So may I follow up with a question?
go right ahead.
So they can get one permit at a time, and then the work is cleared by the city, and then they can reapply?
They can have more than one permit, but the limit is, as they close out each permit, before we issue, say, a third or a fourth permit, we make them close them out so that the restoration is complete.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Council President?
So, thank you. You say they sell this then when they're done,
That's their general business practice based upon the research that we've done.
to like Xfinity or who?
That's one of the people that they have used. Lumen has been another one, depending upon what region of the country that we're talking about.
Interesting. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to forward the proposed ordinance to the first reading on February 18, 2025.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, thank you. We'll now move on to item C, the cooperative purchasing interlocal agreement with the city of Everett.
Good evening, Chair Jack Dovey and committee chair, or committee council members. I am here to talk about the cooperative purchasing interlocal agreement with the city of Everett and the purchase of CityWorks software. Policy question is, should the council approve the cooperative purchasing interlocal agreement with the city of Everett and the purchase of CityWorks software? The agreement will allow the city to purchase a new asset management software using competitively awarded contract through the city of Everett. For the software, it is a GIS-centric asset management software. Public Works has been using ViewWorks, our current asset management software, for the last 15 years. It has been a year-long process to determine the best software for our current business needs. CityWorks has the increased capabilities, and there's no change for the public. It integrates with existing city systems. It utilizes project and location prioritization. It has data analysis within the software, and it meets the international standards of asset management. Financial impacts. The interlocal purchasing agreement with the City of Everett will be a no-cost agreement. The software purchase is included in the Surface Water Management Fund of 25 and 26 budget for the estimated amount of $175,000. Options considered. 1, recommend to approve the purchasing interlocal agreement with the City of Everett and purchase the CityWorks software. Option 2, do not approve proposed agreement and software and provide direction to staff. Mayor's recommendation is option 1. Any questions?
Yeah, I have one question. Are we doing this interlocal cooperative purchase with the city of Everett so we don't have to go to bid?
Correct.
And they've already bid and that city accepted? Is that what we're doing?
Yes.
Okay.
To follow up on that, does that mean we're buying the software, or do they own it and we're leasing it from them, or how does this work then?
I think we would own it and we're just piggybacking off a bid that went out to everybody, and this is what the software we would have picked anyway, correct?
Correct.
So by doing this, it bypass the bid process?
It essentially, so what piggybacking is it allows one governmental entity to not have to redo the bid solicitation process when another governmental entity has already done it. So essentially, City of Everett has already done that solicitation the same way we would have done it, and we are, instead of duplicating efforts and doing the same thing again, we're relying on theirs in the purchase.
Awesome, thank you.
I do have one more question. City of Everett's a different size than Federal Way, so are we getting the scale of what we would have paid for the software, or is it always the same? Stick it out, it's the same 175 if you're a small city or a big city?
No, we're doing this because we're getting better pricing. So, no, the pricing is based on the size of the city and the number of
Okay.
assets you have, but we're getting better pricing than we would if we were to go out to bid and just
Okay.
buy it on the open market.
Okay. Any other questions, Susan? No? Okay, do I have a?
Well,
oh,
I
go
was
ahead.
just going to say, what is the, I mean, just to, so that my ignorance is proven and not just doubted. What is asset management software for, I mean?
Yeah.
Don't give this explanation, not that one,
Yeah.
okay?
So basically, it tracks our assets out in the field, and it helps to maintain the life of the asset. So it keeps the records of the maintenance, work orders, service requests. It also keeps track of the labor, the time, just so that we can realize the value of the assets.
Okay. And so the assets being equipment?
Equipment, streets, streetlights,
Okay.
everything that
Okay.
we maintain.
So,
All right.
I guess I'll have one more question. Are we putting GPS on these, or we're just putting, I mean, when you say track
No.
asset, that says GPS to me.
No,
We're
so,
putting-
so this is, so our GIS system has like all the streetlights, the telephone, well, not telephone poles, but signs, traffic signals. It actually has fire hydrants in it, but that's not our asset. It has the sidewalk, everything in it as assets. So when staff goes out there, it's on their smartphones. And basically, if they go out and stand up a knocked over sign, it gets automatically logged and everything in that. So over time, if we find basically the value in the software is it shows you where you keep going. So if we've stood up the same sign 6 times, maybe the 7th time we get smart enough to say maybe we should move the sign, not stand it up in the same place where it's gotten hit 6 times before. But when we're talking about hundreds of thousands of assets, it's That's what it is.
Okay.
You know, different staff go out all the time.
Okay.
I have a follow-up. Is fleet tied into this with vehicles too?
Yes and no. It has a fleet module that I think Stacy's still working on. That comes as part of the package, so it's not an additional cost. But I think we're still trying to figure out if it's worth doing that or not to get that on there. But yes, it does. We also have software through Ford that we use currently.
So is that what we're using for assets right now for fleets? Is the Ford software-ish or?
Yeah, and then with bringing fueling in with the new maintenance facility, there's a software that comes with that too that all does something similar. So there's all the software talks, so it's a matter of figuring out what is the best method for the city, and I'm not sure we have that answer right now, but that doesn't change any of the current conversations.
Gotcha, thank you.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I move to forward the proposed interlocal agreement to the February 18, 2025 consent agenda for approval.
Second.
Second, and it's all been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Item D is a resolution accepting transportation grants and authorizing the execution of associated local agency agreements. Mr. Perez, you bringing us money to spend?
Indeed.
All
That
right.
is why I'm
You're
here
always-
tonight.
You're always so nice to bring these things to the committee.
I love these kinds of presentations.
Okay, you're up.
So, let's see, I am screen sharing, and I want to get that out of the way.
Hopefully, it's not a federal grant that we have to wait for.
Oh, unfortunately, it is a federal grant. It is federal money.
Okay, it's not from USAID, right?
Why am I not getting rid of this? Thank you. See, it's good to have tech people on staff.
Yeah.
So the policy question is, should the council authorize acceptance of transportation grant funding? So we had applied for 3 different projects as authorized by the council. The BPA Trail Extension, Pacific Highway Non-Motorized Trail, the Phase 3, and a preservation project on 320th between 99 and I-5. And these 3 applications were successful. So these are all federal funds distributed through PSRC. And so we're looking at $1.6 million out of $2 million for right-of-way acquisition for the BPA Trail Extension from basically Celebration Park to the light rail station. $600,000 for design of the Pacific Highway Trail, which will actually go from 288 to the North City limits. In particular, associated with that is improvements on 16th Avenue South between 288th and 284th, going down the hill, which has been a safety issue for quite some time, and being able to provide safer pedestrian facilities on that will be a big benefit. And then finally, a preservation project construction phase on 320th between SR 99 and I-5. And that's 50% share, 1.15 million for that. So options considered is 1, to approve to accept the transportation grant funding and authorize the mayor to execute related agreements, or 2, do not accept the grant funding and provide direction to staff. Mayor's recommendation is option 1. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Seeing, I see 2 now. Councilmember Walsh?
Could you go back to the previous
Sure.
screen? I think that I know the answer. No, okay, well, the previous one, yeah. Go back, more.
The one that has,
There, that's the one we're looking for, okay,
All right.
all right. So, I think that I know the answer, but just so that I'm not assuming. On the third one, that's a considerable city match. Is that in the budget?
So this would be out of the overlay program, so essentially it cuts the cost in half for us. So it would have been in the budget one way or another anyway.
All right, okay, thank you.
Council President?
Well, thank you, Rick. I'm just trying to, on your summary here, for your second project for the non-motorized trail. Is that the one where you're supposed to go from downtown Federal Way to Still Lake Park, and then does it go all the way to 288th, or?
So this would be a trail connection along Pack Highway, parallel to Pack Highway. Currently, we're in the middle of construction of Phase 1, which is between 304th and Dash Point Road. And we're in right-of-way acquisition for Phase 2, which will extend that to the south and to in front of Federal Way High School, and then north to 288th, along the right-of-way and utility easements.
On the west
what
side?
other- Yeah.
On the west side of Pack Highway?
Yes, and then this would go down the hill on 16th through the Applewood subdivision up to 279th. And potentially, I'm trying to remember if it goes up 16th Avenue from there up to 272nd. But that's the intent, is to create a continuous connection to the bike lanes on 16th Avenue in Des Moines.
So I'm trying to visualize this. So there's a sidewalk on the west side, and so is it running along the sidewalk, or?
So, which portion? So, okay, so right now, we're going to be doing, there was a shoulder walkway / sidewalk on Phase 1 between 304th and Dash Point Road, and we're widening that out and providing pedestrian scale lighting on that segment. So then it will cross diagonally across Dash Point Road at 16th Avenue, follow the hill a little bit down 16th Avenue, and then peel off onto that utility easement to go up to 288th. And that will be a standalone trail. And then also going back and connecting that trail south down to 308th in front of Federal Way High School.
So people will actually be able to walk this trail through the city,
That's correct.
and we're not going to have homeless.
Well, that's why we're providing the lighting and other amenities to make sure that it's not too attractive.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other questions, do I have a motion?
I
Oh.
actually have one more question.
Okay.
On that, between 304th and Dash Point Road, so is the trail going along Pack Highway or along 16th?
Along 16th.
16th, okay, all right, that makes sense. Okay.
That's where the construction is going now.
Okay, Councilman Hahn.
Mr. Chair, I move to forward the proposed resolution to February 18, 2025 consent agenda for approval.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we're going to go to item E. Our deputy director is going to fill in for one of those people driving a snowplow or a loader or something out in the snow world. So Desiree, your turn. And thank you to your staff for keeping our roads clean and safe.
All right. See if I can make this happen. Thank you for the tech person still here. Good evening, Chair Dovey, committee members, Council President Kochmar, and members of the council. Hit share screen. Pick that one. There we go. All right, we are here requesting approval for authorization to bid a concrete sidewalk beveling services contract. There we go. Should City Council authorize staff to solicit bids for the concrete sidewalk beveling trip hazard removal contract? So some background, we are responsible for maintaining sidewalks primarily on all the arterial system in the city. We have an ongoing maintenance program that allows be able to just maintain it in place, where we can grind down the high side of the concrete panels that a lot of times get raised by either tree roots, weather, age, that type of thing. We don't have enough staff resources for timely completion of all the needs in the city that we've determined through some of our ADA inspections out there. So that's what it looks like. On the left would be before, and the right is after. You basically just grind the high side so that it's smooth and no longer a little trip lip there. So we started using precision concrete cutting. I believe we actually had even an earlier contract in 2019. The most current one, though, we had was in 2021. And we continued that contract with them through the end of last year. We proposed a not-to-exceed amount of $350,000 for a multi-year, 3-year term with an option for one-year extension. And we budget this out of the contract agreement line items in our street fund. Generally, historically, we've been spending anywhere from 80 to 140,000 a year on these type of projects. It really depends on how many other needs we have that we use those contract services for in street maintenance. So the options considered: authorize staff to solicit bids for the concrete sidewalk beveling contract, or do not authorize staff to solicit bids and provide direction staff. And the mayor recommends option 1, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember McDaniel?
Yeah, a couple quick ones. So roughly, we're looking at about $150, $120 a year for this. How many sidewalks does that cover? Ballpark, I don't know.
Good question. Our last repair contract that we did, which we ended up bringing up to the full $350,000 amount over that period of time, we've got over, or almost 3,000 repairs done.
Jeez.
So it's just, and what we have them do, because if it's this particular contractor, they are required to go do, they finalize the inspection for us as well. We've done some of our own inspections to kind of pinpoint some areas. If you ever seen them in town, they ride segways and actually go measure all the bumps. And then they come up with a bid and ask us, what section do you want us to complete? And they bring out several people over a period of a week usually and get, hundreds of them done in a period of like one task order. So, yeah.
Right. And then, so do we have a list that they work off of, or when they go out and survey, does that build the list that we then tell them to go?
A little bit of both, but for the bulk of their work, we have them go to pinpointed areas that we ask them to do the survey.
Okay, and then I'm going to start the last one. I see Susan has her hand raised, so I'll let her go. The other one's going to be, is this strictly in front of businesses, or is this in front of residential houses too?
We have a program that we work with homeowners who would like to reimburse us to do the repairs that they're responsible for if it's their trees that have caused the problem. So far to date, we've had about 17 people take advantage of that, and so we pay our contractor to do the work, and then the residents have an agreement with us and they pay us back.
Do you know what the average cost is for reimbursement on that?
Oh, geez. It's been anywhere from $250, and it really depends on the number and severity. And some of them have gone up to a couple $1,000s.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Walsh? and
Yeah,
then
just
Councilmember Honda.
out of here, I know that you've crunched all the numbers and everything, but why does it make more sense to contract it out rather than hiring people for in-house?
We just don't have the time and the resources to do it. We have so much that, so much on our plates to do. We do a certain amount ourselves. So if I were to gather, we'd probably do a couple hundred locations ourselves. But to spend this much time and effort to do this, we just don't have the resources. You'd be talking, more FTEs, but if you want us to hire FTEs, we can certainly look into that. I think EJ's smiling, going, all right.
All right.
Councilmember Honda?
Thank you. So when you paint the sidewalks that are raised peak and the paint wears off, do you go back and do it again? Or do you just do it the one time per year?
We try, and I'm not going to make a commitment that we do, that we go back to get them done. Usually, we are responding to people's complaints when they come out, and so we kind of ask. Usually, it's the adjacent property owner. Sometimes will complain again, and we'll go out before we don't have a chance to get to the repair and paint it again.
So if the paint wears off and someone's walking on that sidewalk, and let's say it's a sidewalk the city's responsible for, and they're injured, and as I said, the paint's worn off, then what happens? Are we responsible for that injury?
I'm going to let the attorney answer that question.
I'll answer it generally and say that it would obviously be better from a liability perspective if they were always painted.
All right. So I've seen these guys out in the community working. A few years ago, they were on First Avenue, and it seemed like they stayed there for the whole day, just going up and down First Avenue. So is that what they do? They just stay in one area most of the time when they come?
Yes, our task orders are usually location specific. So, for example, one of the task orders was for them to do First Avenue between two locations. And yes, we sign a task order and we have them go complete geographic areas at a time.
Okay, and this is my chance to say that I would like the city to relook at the sidewalk ordinance, and I don't believe that residents should be completely responsible for replacing the sidewalk when the city's planted trees that they don't know that they're responsible for, or that they have never been told that they're responsible for. And anyway, that's just my personal opinion, but I think that we could do a better job as a city of informing people. I know that a letter went out a few years ago, maybe 2 years ago, about this to property owners. But I still think that they pay taxes to us and that we should be responsible for the sidewalks. And I know it's an expensive proposition. I know it probably will never change, but just my opinion. Thank you.
Any other questions? And Susan, I will comment on your comment about that. I just got a letter from the city of Tacoma on some property, and I have to go fix sidewalks, so I hear your pain. Okay.
I've never had to fix a sidewalk, but I've talked to plenty of property owners
Yeah.
who,
I got a letter from the city of Tacoma that says, hey, you need to fix your sidewalk. So
And
they do the same thing. They send you the letter, go fix it. Yes, Council President.
I'm glad to know who the guys on the Segways were, because I thought they were drug dealers.
No bikes, just segways. Okay. Do I have a motion?
I move to forward option 1 to the February 18, 2025 consent agenda for approval.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And Susan, you may want to, bring that up, and sometime in the future, not like right now, we can put it on land use and have that discussion.
all right.
Okay? Okay, is there anything anybody else would like to bring up before we close our meeting in 37 minutes and rolling? 34 minutes. Maybe we'll get a record.
Yeah, I'll keep
Okay.
it, I'll keep it to 35. I did send you an email. I appreciate your response. I do have a couple items I'm requesting to put on the agenda. So thank you.
Okay, all in favor of closing, please say aye. Aye. Okay, we will now adjourn.